Well, it seemed to me that George had a lot of ideas about how this picture could look, and also what the plot would be. But I think that the look of the picture was almost as interesting or more interesting to him than the plot. In other words, the kind of things that you would see, the great vistas of alien lands, and the kinds of structures, and the spaceships, and the costumes, and the accessories. This whole thing, he would keep leafing through material, the science fiction illustrations of the past for the magazines, the amazing science, amazing stories, and so forth, and all these fantastic robots. And actually, George himself was very interested in being an illustrator. At one point in his life, he'd asked his father, I believe, if he could go to Art Center, and he would have liked to have been an illustrator in the area of that Frank Frazetta is in, a science fiction illustrator. And he wanted to get all this on the screen. I mean, he could see it in his mind, and as he wrote, he would see these things, but the script didn't reflect enough. I mean, it had some description of visual things, but it was kind of sketchy, so I felt that as much as anything, he expected from me the kind of hand that could give this the glorious look that he'd hoped for. And all the light would be there, and the textures and the excitement of this thing visually, if possible. So I would work with him, and we'd get together and talk about 3 or 4 different scenes, that maybe would be the kind of key scenes that would sum up the picture in its grandeur, we'd hoped, some scope to the visual material. And we made a painting of 3PO and R2-D2 crossing the desert, and you could see their pod in the background there. It's one of the production paintings. That was the first one I did. And George would look at my pencil sketches first, and we'd talk about what each thing should look like. Sometimes he would show me something from an old book or illustration that he thought would be more or less like what he wanted, but it would usually want to be quite considerably changed. So that's the way we proceeded.